Welcome to today's webinar. We run these monthly, as you possibly know, and today's is specifically about the tech revolution in the union sector and what we've been doing over the last few years in that space. So we'll be covering a lot of different ground. Firstly, if I can introduce us all. So we'll be hearing a lot, and Master of Ceremonies is Matt Dunphy, who's been a long-term independent consultant in this space. And I'm also delighted to say that we'll be welcoming, or we have welcomed, Patricia Keating, who's one of our customers from the Teachers Union of Ireland, which is a project we've been doing over the last couple of years, and is now moving into that was membership CRM and direct earnings attachments, and it's also now moving into AI. And also Chris Lightley and myself, we're both from Smart Impact. We'll be showing you some software and talking about some of the other attributes around what we do and what we think the issues are. So if I can quickly give a little bit of etiquette, the session's recorded, so you don't have to scribble down loads of notes. We generally publish these on Thursday once we've been able to make it a bit prettier than the core recording. So wait for that and we'll email and send you links to the recording. If you've got any questions, please use the chat. And we've got a Q&A session at the end for any questions in the chat and other questions that have come through thus far. And any issues with sound or whatever, again, put those in the chat as well, and we'll address them if we can. So the agenda is from me introducing, and then from Matt looking at the challenges and the technologies that are available in the union sector at the moment. We'll then have a questions and answer session with Patricia, talking about why the TUI looked at new solutions, what they had before, and so on, what they've achieved. Then we'll look at some focused demonstrations, some of the software that we provide, and then, as I say, there's a Q&A session at the end. And one thing we're able to say now in September, there's an organisation called MEMCOM in the UK, but they have an international audience. But every year they run awards for technology, and I'm delighted to say we entered 7 categories, and we won 3 first prizes, and we won 4 second prizes. So all the software you see today is now award-winning software, so that's very good, and it makes us feel very proud. But we'll be covering aspects of that as well. And with that, I'd like to hand over to Matt, who's going to cover some of the challenges that we're all facing in the union space.
Thank you, Steve. Matt. I'm just going to share my screen so that I can drive from my side. As Steve's kindly indicated, I've got the introduction section of the webinar today, and I'll also facilitate the conversation coming up and our questions for Patricia Keating. So I'll just do a quick check that everyone can see that screen okay.
It's fine.
Great. And as you can see on screen, so as a kind of primer for our event today, we want to talk about trade union membership in a new era of technology. Obviously, that era, if you hadn't heard, is AI. So many discussions out there in the sector across trade unions about AI. So how can we actually enable trade unions with it and actually continue around modern technology, including CRM? So we'll be talking about not only the current needs of trade unions around the digital technology, but the future needs as well. So hopefully lots of good stuff for you there if you are embarking on a change project. Some of you may have seen this. This is from a bulletin from the UK's Department of Business and Trade around trade unions last year. Some of these statistics certainly surprised me when I looked again at them. 22% of the UK workforce, according to this bulletin, is a member of a trade union. I was looking at that slipped away slightly from around about 25%, so 1 in 4 in the workforce about 10 years ago. So I guess, as you know, there is this dual challenge and opportunity of consolidating the trade union base in the UK, likely the same in Ireland and other countries, and actually continuing to regrow it given the volatile times we're seeing around job security, particularly at the moment. 64% of people in a trade union have a higher level qualification. Now, this is not to denigrate anyone who doesn't, but it is to say many trade union members may be working in an industry that requires that level of qualification, including IT, digital and data services. So you may well have advocates or people who know a lot about technology in your membership base, or indeed in your set of activists and organisers. So certainly allies there around your change projects. And as you can see on the right, this surprised me in both ways. A rise in women in unions. Female membership is up by 134,000 last year, according to this bulletin. Male membership down 175,000 nearly. So, you know, we have the opportunity to engage more newer female members. I'm not going to go to causes, but certainly there are industries like nursing, which are seeing a lot more activism at the moment, and actually re-engage some of our recently departed male members, you know, to try and get them back. So lots of challenges in there, but also lots of opportunities to use technology to drive better engagement. I'm going to talk a little bit about trends in the last couple of years around digital technology in unions. So first off, this is again not to denigrate the vital importance of branches or workplaces in the union engagement strategy, but to say that the relationship, certainly over recent years, it can become more of a one-to-one relationship. This is probably the nature of digital engagement. People are inside portals and apps on websites themselves a lot more frequently. So our opportunity to talk to them directly is certainly more recent in terms of union engagement. The second one there you see is, you know, whether it's shopping online, whether it's streaming, gaming, or just visiting a lot of websites and services, people have higher expectations and demands around user experience, and unions are not counted out there. You know, we need to develop our websites and our portals with that in mind. Coupled with that, people expect the frequency of the interactions and actually the support to be quote unquote real time. So if you are a union member and you have an active case, you know, people are a lot more used now to seeing information about that digitally, and their impatience or their need for responses quicker is certainly something we have seen. And then finally, then just that last one on screen, you know, there's always great kind of reciprocity in union membership. I think one of those is around data. So if a union member is giving you their data, increasingly they're probably expecting you to do something smart with it. So the more analytics you can develop, particularly in branch networks, or just giving back some good statistics around, say, your membership density, is certainly an expectation when, you know, union members do need to actually share data with you. So that's some recent trends. I would say the questions on the screen do count for all organisations, but I'm going to kind of tune them up for why they're so relevant to unions. So, you know, which technology do I use, or if I'm planning a replacement project, you know, which technology might I shift to? Well, certainly if you are on a legacy platform right now, you know, it is a burning platform. You know, you will need to actually move, because largely these are what we call on-premise. They're being supported locally. They're not cloud-based, and they may not be as safe as a platform that is SaaS or something similar. So really, we'll cover a little bit more information in a moment about how you can make those choices. In the middle there, of course, I have mentioned it already, but, you know, what does a union do with AI? And I think this is particularly relevant, and welcome your views or questions when there are additional ethical or reputational concerns. You know, you may well be supporting members who have a risk or a threat, or indeed just a curiosity and a qualm around the introduction of AI in their workplace and how it might affect them. So how does a union bring that feature into its own technology in an appropriate way? And then I certainly have done many projects with unions, and this question on the right always comes up. You know, how do I know that you can actually fulfill all of the requirements of a union as a technology supplier? So let's look at that again in a little more detail in a moment. But I won't caveat, but qualify this. I'm an independent consultant talking on behalf of Smart Impact today to an audience of unions. You know, what I will say with certainty again is, if you are challenged by legacy systems, again, things that are quite old, that have been built over time in a highly bespoke way, please consider moving straight away. You might be mid-project, and you have my empathy, because I know the challenge of getting off legacy systems to a modern platform is not small. But congratulations if you're doing that. To slightly more qualify this, you may be debating whether you use what we call a proprietary system or a highly productized version of CRM, for example. Some of those are out there, they're very good. And what I would say we usually find is that they're so productized that it can be difficult for your staff teams to actually own them fully. They may have to put in additional change requests or get enhanced support from a technology supplier to fully use them. So to move over to the right-hand side of the screen there, the vote for Dynamics 365, including with Smart Impact, is really to say Dynamics 365, in my sort of 15 years of experience, is a very flexible platform. If you know how to use it effectively, there's lots of ways you can configure it and own it as staff users and teams. And also what Smart Impact has done is it's really productized things in a very smart way. There are flexible products like Smart DAS that do actually fulfill what a union needs around deduction at source without being too restrictive. So I think there's some messaging in here about actually investigating what you need in those terms. Talk a little bit about AI then and how you might introduce it as a union. There are things you can explore now, even if you are actually on a journey with development of your core technology. So if you're a Microsoft customer, you can use Copilot. I feel this is a day-to-day tool that's actually just there for you to experiment with as a worker. You can get a pro license version of that, and you can actually maybe hand that or delegate that to someone who can investigate it more for your organization. Certainly a lot of unions need case management software, and I think the AI element of this, one example on screen, is you can actually kind of deal with your FAQs for members around what support you can and cannot offer, and turn that into AI. You can get people actually getting advice, which is basically a standard answer, which reduces some manual effort on your teams. And then some more searching kind of uses of AI on the right there. Many of you are doing physical activity, consolidating or growing the union base. Certainly Smart Impact and other suppliers I've seen do a lot in the way of, predicting engagement levels. Who are our high engaged union members right now, who might be activists or organizers? Who are we worried about that might be at risk of slipping away, and we need to do some more engagement to retain them? And then finally, a lot of chat in this era of AI around chatbots and, using these search assistants. A great use case on screen there is actually if you do have a member portal or you're going to build one, a portal for your branches, you can actually put a feature in there where you can actually answer questions via machine learning using a search assistant and AI technology. Again, that reduces staff time and effort, and it gets your branches the questions they need answered, for example. And just to say, really, in our perspective, this is not about cutting jobs. It is just about redirecting your people to where they provide the most value for your members. They can think more strategically, and they can become basically the overseers of this technology. They actually upskill and learn more about AI so that they can manage it in future. And then a couple of final themes before we get to the conversation with Patricia. Very much looking forward to that. I won't call these out, but if anyone wants to take a snapshot of this, please do. I think there is a recording. Please correct me if I've got that wrong. But just to say, how do I get what I need from a technology supplier? Many examples on screen. So you're going to want a supplier that has a really solid CRM and portal. You just need one. Most organizations do. It's really important for unions because of the branch connection. You're going to want someone who understands union structure. I've seen suppliers struggle in this vein, understanding the branch network, the workplace network, sectors and industries. So those upfront conversations about how much they know about that are crucial. A couple of things that are more sort of member facing. You do want a low barrier join process. If you're out in the field trying to get members quickly, you want a nice user experience that doesn't have any barriers in the way. And of course, Steve and Chris will probably cover this in their demo or talk a bit more about it. You're going to want more digital ways to engage your members using various different tools. The right-hand side is a little bit more about what do I need inside a system, core system like a CRM. You will contact your members in this way, but you do need to know your supplier's got a really good way to help you ballot, to get accurate results back quickly when that is the case. And we've mentioned DAS before. If you rely heavily on that, you want a tool that is very constructive and actually fairly agile and flexible to what your union needs versus other needs. Last things here, then, I've certainly seen this myself. You're going to want a supplier who has a really sophisticated subscriptions model. Some of those fee structures you're going to want to archive. They're probably quite old. The ones you need to keep, or these additional features like payment pauses, you really need to make sure your supplier can cover those well. Case management we've covered, and definitely in any union project I've been involved in, particularly, you need a darn good data migration project. There's a lot of old data. It needs tidying up. It needs migrating well, and then it becomes really valuable to you as an asset in future. So in summary then, just looking at the kind of key message, these are more volatile times. We have this uncertainty about union membership still, but in terms of driving engagement and retention, a lot of suppliers will be able to fit what you need. And I think including or especially Microsoft Dynamics 365, and with Smart Impact or another supplier, you really should be exploring these use cases in advance. Can you do this? Can you do that? How do you do this element of union membership technology? We're going to have a quick poll now before we talk to Patricia. I think Chris might be there to help me. Simple question on screen for you. Which of these three kind of query areas is most on your mind at the moment? Is it the first one there, which technology or platform you use? Have you come to this webinar? Second one there, with questions about AI for unions? Or thirdly, are you really in that space of wondering if a supplier can fulfill your requirements fully? Chris, how are we doing? Can you see any results?
Give it a couple more seconds, but interestingly, I think AI is pulling ahead at the moment with 62% of the results, which is double second place at the moment. So I'll give it a couple more seconds, but it looks like AI at 67%, and then choosing the right tech being second place at 27%.
Great. So I'm certainly thinking in the demo, you'll probably come back to AI and how it gets incorporated. And we'll weave that in as well to the rest of the webinar. But good to know. Okay, so many of you have come in thinking about how do we adopt AI? How do we get started with it? And then some of the core technology questions. Hopefully the last section was helpful. Great. So I think we'll move on to the interview or chat part of the webinar now. As I said, we're very delighted to have Patricia Keating with us from Dublin this morning and the Teachers Union of Ireland. I personally know Patricia has been responsible for leading a CRM and portal implementation project recently with her teams. It's gone live very safely and stably, and she's very kindly agreed to take some time out to talk to us about it. Patricia, how are you today?
Yeah, no, I'm very well and delighted to be here. Thank you.
Great. Well, yes, thank you. Hopefully that was a fitting intro to all your endeavours over in Dublin.
All good.
So we have a raft of questions for you, probably a bit of a before, during and after of your recent project. So perhaps if I get started for the benefit of the group today, what was the initial driver for technology change at TUI?
Well, I mean, back 3 or 4 years ago, the TUI had a custom built system. It was over 20 years old. It sat on a server that was end of life. And the gentleman that would maintain that system and keep it running, hold the whole system together, he wanted to retire. So we were left in a situation where we had to look outwards. So TUI's main goal at that stage was literally just to secure our membership data. That was the goal at that point.
Got you. And I think we do see that, as I've mentioned myself, it's quite common. There's a stack of legacy systems in place. And as you've said there's indeed an individual, a couple or a small group who are either looking to retire or looking to hand off the technology to another supplier. So often how these projects get started. Great. So you've already mentioned one key goal about securing your data for the future. How about some of the other main goals of the union around technology at that point?
Okay, so what we decided was that we were looking for a system that was adaptable, scalable, that it could handle TUI's growing membership and then meet the needs of the core operations team. So that was key. We wanted absolutely to be able to, access real-time data in a safe, secure way. We'd never had that benefit. And we also wanted to meet the demands of our members who were looking for improved service, personalised and relevant communication. So they were kind of our three headline items.
Got you. So I think, yeah, you're right. Being on a modern platform gives you that scalability. We'll never stop mentioning data for a union, particularly maybe get more access to branches around that. And as you've said, it is generally the members and branches who, as well as the staff, are really vocal about what they need, to do what they do, often on a voluntary basis. So moving on to smart impact and dynamics. So boiling it all down, why did you choose smart impact and dynamics in the end over at the union there?
So I suppose once we'd gathered all our list of requirements, we went to market to meet with technology partners and to see what they had to offer, like what kind of systems they had to offer. And TUI very quickly came to the conclusion that Microsoft Dynamics was the way to go. It was the system that offered us that flexible, adaptable solution, which was what we required. I have to say there's no journey that has never roadblock somewhere along the way. And just as we were at the point of, going into the development phase, we realized that the partner we'd chosen were no longer available to us. So quick pivot back out to market. And we were delighted to meet with Smart Impact, who were actually best placed to give us our red line requirement, which was deduction at source. And they also had expertise in portal development. So it was kind of a marriage made in heaven, and we haven't looked back since.
Great, fantastic. And I will say for anyone in the audience of the group today, yeah, it can be the way, it can be what we call a rescue project, where you go certain stages into a relationship with a certain supplier. It may not be working. So it sounds like you kept Dynamics, but again, you moved over to Smart Impact for a better overall experience.
Yeah, for sure.
Fantastic. So yeah, looking probably into the project in a bit more detail, and you mentioned, every road has got a few obstacles along the way. What were some of the technical challenges that TUI faced during its change project?
I think the main one was the deduction at source. It was a red line requirement. There was no going forward without it. It's what we had in our old system. We absolutely had to have it in the new system. And I'm delighted to say that Smart Impact were really agreeable to take that, and what they agreed to do was to begin development of that right at the beginning of the project, and then alongside it develop the other elements. So we were confident when we came to go live that had been looked after. So that was a fantastic option for TUI.
Got you. So the Smart as product, and I guess how you were investigating it during the project, went well. And yeah, it's a real knotty one, that, because it brings together not only the features and the functionality you need, your relationship with workplaces, but of course it kind of gives you a very honest appraisal of how good your data is right now during migration.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it runs through the whole system, it links so many different things. It's just key.
Yes, exactly. Like the beating heart of your CRM.
Yeah.
And I suppose moving on then to the experiences of the staff, teams and individuals, how did they react to the change project?
So we were very determined at TUI that the system would be built from the bottom up. And that meant that members and staff were engaged from the very, very beginning. So we ran workshops where we gathered all those requirements. So staff, as I say, were involved throughout the whole process. They gathered the requirements, they were involved in the user stories and the development and testing phase. So things went well. They were involved, they had a voice, which is really critical. So we're 3 months live now. We went live the end of July. So we're on our third wash through the system. We do have a few teething problems. Some of them are legacy data issues. Some of them are actually unforeseen consequences of the success of the system. And other things are, that, certain staff need maybe a little bit more training, a little bit more guidance, I have to say that the support team at Smart Impact are assisting us right the way through with all of those issues. It's been a long journey, and everyone that was involved that was actually doing, they were double jobbing, they were doing their own job at the same time. And I would admit that after the high of the go live and the successful go live, we kind of went into a little low ebb because people were just tired. When you've achieved something, you sit back and you kind of go, oh, So we're back on track. Spirits are up, and I think part of that is our decision to create a user group so that that conversation keeps on going. This is a system that's going to continue to improve. So we need that access to conversation and sharing of ideas. So I think that has lifted spirits again, and away we go now onwards.
Right. And there's so much in there, but I'm going to summarize it in through the lens of change management. You know, unions are great spaces to do these projects in because people are vocal, they are proactive. You know, you can actually get healthy challenge throughout a project, or you can certainly organize people within your project. As you say, it is a long journey, and every client that goes live has this lull.
Yeah.
You know, this little dip post live, and as you've accurately described, it's about how do we re-engage people, re-energize them, and re-motivate them so that, you know, we start to look to what we do in the future. Brilliant. And I think, yeah, just maybe talking about impacts, and I think this will lead into some of the benefits you've seen already. So what do you think one of the greatest impacts for members? What are they sort of seeing up front?
I have to say that when we started to roll out access to the portal, I was nervous. We had nothing like that before, so it was kind of a new, and I just didn't know how it would go. But I've been amazed at the engagement from members on the portal. They are delighted to be able to see their personal details, realize I don't live at that house any longer, and I need to update that. So, you know, updating things like that. They're able to book events. They're able to realize that they have outstanding fees and pay them. So engagement has been amazing. So absolutely thrilled with that.
Fantastic. And I think for the group, the audience today, you know, some of you may not have a portal at the minute. And I think you see this step change in what you can offer as self-service through that. And then if others of you do, you know, it might be thinking about what new features can I add to give members and branch or workplace reps more activists and, you know, alleviate some of the pressure on the internal teams. Wonderful. So I guess if we keep going on benefits, then, you know, operations is a key part of what a CRM can do, including for unions. What are some of the operational benefits you're starting to see now you're post-launch?
Well, I've picked a top three, and portal access to the DAS, to that deduction at source, has greatly reduced processing effort for staff because it just literally, you know, feeds through it, and it's amazing. We never had an online DAS before. So this is it's a thrill. It's great. We've also got automated communications for our members. Now we haven't actually reached potential with that. We're at a very basic level where it's, you know, thank you for joining, thank you for booking this event. But we see great potential for that. But it's working really well. We also have then centralized case management system, and it's the first time for that as well. And there's going to be huge benefits for that for the union. It's been siloed previously, so now we have it all together, and there'll be learnings coming from that, you know, for the future.
Got you. And I know our questions are slightly less AI focused. I know it's on people's minds today. I suppose in all of this investigation of, you know, how you continue with member engagement using the automated tools you've got, I'm sure there'll start to be conversations with Smart Impact around how AI is actually powering some of that under the bonnet, if you like.
Absolutely. We have, we're at the kind of the very early stages of, you know, looking at AI. I mean, we've kind of two strands. One is the chatbot or agent, and then we have the in-house, you know, smart assistants. So we're at early stages, but very excited about that.
Yes, exactly. I think
Pretty
these
magical.
are things that can start to complement what you're doing, certainly. Just make sure I'm definitely still on camera. I am. So a couple of final questions for you then. So we've talked about impact and what the members are seeing. Maybe give us some specifics about what your branch reps are saying or what they're finding the value of through the portal.
So the branch reps or activists, they have, you know, it's based on kind of protocols and security. So each of those have access to other areas of the system. So for the first time ever, they can go, instead of coming to head office and saying, would you mind printing me a list? They're able to go in and see their members on a workplace basis. So that's great. They're also able to communicate with their members from the portal. Do I want one workplace? Do I want all the workplaces? They're able to put up their branch events. So the members can just come straight on and say, okay, there's the, you know, the next branch meeting is next week. I want to attend. So they have all of that, and they're, you know, now it's a learning curve. They're getting to grips with it. We get the phone calls saying, I can't find this and I can't do that, but it's there. And once they have, you know, got the training, you know, it's working well for them.
And I think the kind of people side of change of that is, yeah, it's giving more and giving more autonomy while still having
Yeah.
that connection back to the, what I always call the HQ of the union, or the
Yeah.
central union teams. So there's a fine balance there, isn't there?
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. But it gives them autonomy over their own little castle, let's say, you know.
Yes. And again, in the UK, if anyone's thinking more workplaces versus having a huge branch network, as I think the majority of the islands do, unions do in Ireland, I think it could be similar. You know, what are you providing inside your portal to your workplace reps? That's really helping them do their role for you. A couple of final questions then. Yeah, just this one on screen about future plans. You know, I know we've had conversations about,
Yeah.
you know, opening change requests, ambitious steps forward from here. What's your view of that right now?
Okay, so I think what's going to happen is, you know, we've been through, we're only barely using the core elements of the system at the moment, you know, third wash through, so it's very early days. So I see phase two as being enhancements to what we've already achieved, because I think once you see it, you realize the potential. So things like we had certain, you know, requirements for reports. We now see, oh my God, there's so much information there. There'll be change requests for those reports. We want to increase that. Our messaging, some of our messaging we didn't get quite right. So things we thought were perfectly clear to put on the portal for a member, people are being queried now. So we need to make changes like that. So those kind of requests for changes and enhancements are coming from the members, they're coming from the activists, and they're coming from staff. So I think phase two will be about that enhancement of what we've already got. But we also see a huge flow from all directions for new features. We want this, we want that, you know. So so we're actually planning phase three. Never mind having to get to phase two. Phase three is there where we'll have a review of other things that we'd like to introduce. And then also, as we mentioned, we're at the early stages of that AI phase. So
Right.
lots going on.
Well, so two things. I love the way you mentioned cycles. So you're in your third wash with CRM at the moment. So around data and other things, it can certainly feel cyclical. And then, yes, I know you and I have talked, but probably quite common to have a continuous improvement period
Definitely.
where you're adjusting and fine tuning your CRM and portal based on what people are feeding back. And then, yeah, you might have some more ambitious things you get back to, and that also gives your staff teams a bit of a break from the heavy lifting of a change project or a phase.
Yeah.
Great. And then,
May I just add one thing to that,
yes.
Matt, and that's to commend Smart Impact Support Team, because when you've worked with a team and developed a system, you're kind of, you know, very attached to them. And I have to say that the move to support and ongoing development was very smooth. So I would just like to commend them for that. And we're now fully working with the support team. So, you know, it's going well.
Well, I'm sure that'll be music to the ears of Steve
Yeah.
and the team in there. And I was working with a client who was at selection stage this week, and one of their primary concerns was that handover between
Yeah.
the project team and the kind of the client success or the support teams. And it is crucial because it's a whole new community of people to get to know
Absolutely.
who you need support from. And I agree. I have seen that well in action with Smart Impact before. So final question then. You have the floor. You know, what would be your advice to other unions on the call today, you know, about embarking on these types of change projects?
Yeah, I think there's two key things that I've learned from this. And the first one is that knowledge is power. So I think, you know, get out there and chat to everybody. You know, if you're planning to go on this journey, chat to other unions that are going through it or have completed this or are, as we are, kind of in the continuous improvement phase. I have to say the advice that I received from other unions along our journey was invaluable. So, you know, we're all here for each other. So you just ask for advice. The other thing is about your system champions. You know, when I heard this, first of all, I was kind of going, oh my God, system champions. But these are critical to the success of a project. And so from the get-go, I was on the watch out for these champions and, you know, where they'd come from. And I suppose as we all look around our organizations, we kind of know key people that maybe are techie or have an interest. So you kind of think, yeah, they're the guys that'll, you know, support us. But it's amazing that as you go through, other champions come from very different areas. And it can be a surprise. So I would just say, you know, look out for them, you know, guide them and, you know, look after them and cherish them all.
Perfect. And I'll probably close on that note. I know you've worked so hard individually at this change project and you will keep going, but having those champions really grows the kind of the squad of people who can look after your CRM and your services after you've launched. Brilliant, Patricia. There was so much in there. I hope people really appreciated it and found the value. I will probably pass back now to Steve and Chris. I'm going to actually have a quick look at a demo, but thank you so much for your time today.
No, you're welcome.
Steve, back to you.
Well, so thanks very much to Matt and Patricia. I've never heard automated online DAS being called such a thrill, so that's a delight to hear. We can maybe try and make that even more thrilling. So we're going to walk through a journey now from recruitment to balloting. So I'll just give a little bit of background. So some more metrics to build on those that Matt covered earlier. On government metrics, then at the current time, or in fact last year, trade union membership was down about 3% overall within the United Kingdom. But that's sort of coupled with the fact that union members, like members of lots and lots of different associations, are now expecting to be able to do a lot more online. The commercial world has driven this. There's a big expectation through lots of tools like Amazon and eBay and social media that people are so comfortable to it that they're expecting lots of unions to provide the same sort of services, but provide them online and through apps and so on. But at the same time as the union numbers dropping and expectations rising, a lot of unions are still on old technology. That's 10 years and more. And Patricia's example at TUI was a bespoke system of over 20 years old. And we see that an awful lot in this space. So there's some conflicting areas in that. Now, what do we try to help people drive towards? Well, that's all around digital unionism, and this is a phrase that's been picked up very well by TUC Digital as well. So on their website, there's some fantastic resources to help on that journey. But essentially, and we'll walk through some of this in the demo, it's about firstly trying to address that 3% drop in membership. So targeting new members, working out where to target those members, and then engaging with them to get them to move to the next stage, which is joining. In joining, quite a lot of methods are quite circuitous. So we and you need to make that as easy as possible. If it's a matter of enrollment at workplace, fine. But if people have to physically join through your organization directly, then you need to make that as seamless as possible. And really that means portals or apps to make that happen fast and easily. After that, a lot of engagement. So onboarding is crucial. Getting the right expectations set early on, getting participation early on, showing the resources, showing the benefits, because that then enables you to move to the next stage, which is educating your reps, educating your volunteers and activists, helping them provide better services and better advice and training to your members as well, because I know a lot of organizations are very high on the training side, which is an added value to members, and that leads to loyalty. So staying, renewing, and so on, not just because of some of the direct services you do and the protection you do, but because there's an educational element to it as well. So there's a lot of different areas there. Where we were able to help Patricia particularly is that we've got a lot of experience with other education unions such as ASCL in the UK. We're also working with the National Education Union as well. So there's quite a lot of focus and help and proof points that we can bring to the project. And some of the lovely things she said are sort of examples of that. So if I go to the next stage, so what's important in that journey? So the first part is essentially making sure everything is secure and safe. So that can be in just managing your data and GDPR, but particularly around cases and disputes and resolutions and so on. So you need systems that are functional but very secure with making sure that particular cases are treated as sensitively and not viewable by other people as possible. And we've got a lot of experience of that. We've worked with a lot of regulators in the UK, such as the Royal College of Veterinary Surgeons and the Bar Council. So their case management systems have to be ultra secure and very automated, very efficient, but making sure that only the teams that are dealing with particular cases can see those. So secure is very key. But the systems also need to be flexible. So you need to be able to go slightly outside the box when you want to, but also to react to circumstantial changes. And as Patricia talked about, going through different cycles and phases in projects. Don't think about these replacement projects as one phase and that's it. You will learn more and then want to change more, and then you'll want you'll the ability for what you can do in your organization, and you want to change the system more and more to drive you forwards over the years. So that's key. We've talked about robust support. That's both from us to you, but also from you to your members and your reps and your activists. And then what we'll be looking at a little bit in a minute with Chris is being able to drive through social media lots more engagement with your staff and with your members, and getting high engagement and driving that through and taking action when engagement levels change as well. So those are the key things that we think are involved in digital unionism. But I think what came loud and clear out of what Patricia and Matt were talking about was it's not just about replacing your internal legacy system. Portals and in some cases apps are vital because they're the things that provide the interaction and the engagement with your members and with your activists and so on. So while you're looking at your internal system, also look at the portal. If you can overlay portals on your current system, good. You don't need to replace everything if your current system is robust. And there's a very good tool again on the TUC digital site that helps you gauge your readiness and your positioning along a whole load of metrics. So I'd advise people to go and look at that because it's very good at you working out where you are and what you need to do on the version, on your journey through digital unionism. But the key thing is, put portals in as early as you can. Replace the current system internally if you need to, and we can help in phased arrangements of that so you don't have to do everything at once. And also in parallel, you can start to overlay AI, and we'll be covering quite a bit of that. But we've been doing AI for over 2 years. Our first customer went live in 2023. They achieved something like a 25% time clawback for all of their staff, which helped them become much, much more efficient to focus on member benefit and driving new products and new services and raise engagement, raise staff morale in a massive way. And that was the main project that won us 3 of those awards at the Memcom Awards. So we've been doing this practically for a long time. You'll see a lot of AI is still quite theoretical. So come and talk to us if you want to know how to do that in a very practical way, and we'll cover some resources on that in a minute. So at this stage, I'll hand over to Chris, who will be walking you through various aspects. And Chris.
Thanks a lot, Steve. So I'll take a few minutes to go through a demo of a particular use case, and we're going to be moving between portals and Dynamics 365 as our CRM system. And what I want to do is ultimately go from recruitment to the balloting process. So how do I, as a branch activist, go about recruiting? How do I engage with those members and do the communication around that? And once I've captured that recruitment, I'll then have that data within CRM. Then how do we as a union use that data within Dynamics 365 to ultimately take the data, build out the balloting process, identify who needs to receive those ballots, and then finally do that communication. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and what you'll see is our branch activist side of the portal. So I think in reality, this would be something that's most likely on a tablet. So when branch activists are going to location and meeting with potential members, they would be able to get away from that paper-first approach and go digital in order to go about the recruiting process and do the follow-on engagement after that. So there's a lot that you can do from within the branch activist portal in terms of accessing and sharing resources and training and things like that. But I think the most important for today's journey is we want to go through recruitment, we want to do a little bit of messaging and engaging, perhaps set up events for meetups and things like that. And then we're going to leave the portal and go over to Dynamics and see what the data would look like and how we can work with that. So to begin with, we can go over to our recruitment side of things, and from here we can see our most recent signups of individuals down at the bottom. We can get some metrics as to how we're performing, how our branch is performing, and we can see all of our most recent signups. We can filter that data down as well, and if we want to, we can change that into a list view. We can go down and see all of our individuals. So from there, once we have all of these people, now we are on site, we want to be able to capture people. We can go up and sign up a new prospect using any of the buttons. When we go over there, we'd then be able to capture the individual's information. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole process just for time's sake, but it's actually called that John Testman, which is my usual last name. And we can fill out all of that information. We can do address lookup. We can do date of birth and understand all of that. And we can also sign up for direct debit. So we can actually capture that payment information on site as well. So that whole process of capturing information on paper and then having to capture that digitally at a later stage, we can remove that friction and go straight to the recruitment, the end-to-end recruitment process. So from there, we'd have all of our new recruits and signups, and maybe we want to do some messaging around that. So in terms of outreach, we could do things like text messages, emails, WhatsApp, push notifications if they have our apps or if they have our member portal. And from here, we can see kind of like an inbox of the different messages that we've sent recently. And if we want to go over and create a new message, we can then choose which of the portals we want to communicate, which of the channels we want to communicate. So again, email, SMS, portal, or custom channels. If we want to schedule this in advance, we can do that, or we can send it out immediately. And then we can go in and we can filter by workplace if we want to find the individuals. And just going back to what Steve was saying about security, is ensuring that we have only the data that's relevant to us, so putting in those security protocols and permissions. We just select a couple of people that we want to communicate with. We'd then be able to see that we have our recipients, we can type out our message and then do those broadcasts out. Again, either scheduling or send that immediately. So that really gives a lot of power to the activist from within the portal side. And again, this can be done on the desktop like I am, or on mobile, or on tablet. So if you want to send out communication right there and then, and perhaps if we go back to our communication, let's say with Jeremy, if I want to be able to send him some training material or some information right there on the day, I can just select Jeremy and then fill out whatever I want to see. I can see my full history of communication, the channel that it's been going through as well. And from there, I can manage all of that communication with Jeremy. I think of the final thing I would say, just to wrap up that onboarding process, would be events. So our ability to set up and manage events from within the portal. So if these are meetups or training events and things like that, we'd be able to go in, create that event, select the event type that we're interested in, create all that information. If it's a webinar, we may need to get the webinar address from our webinar platform, publish that event, and then again going back to the communication side to do all the reach out around that. So that's just a quick run through of the recruitment process. So again, getting rid of that paper, going digital, going on site, meeting with potential new signups, onboarding them, and doing that full life cycle of onboarding directly from within the portal. From there, that data then automatically feeds back into CRM. So if we go over to Dynamics, Just for those of you maybe you haven't seen Dynamics, I'll do a little bit of navigation as I go through. But we have the ability to build lots of different types of reports and dashboards. So this particular one you can see with that logo is a Power BI report. So we pulled all of this data in. This is the General Secretary's dashboard. So you can see down the bottom, we have a huge amount of different data points that we're capturing. So things like our recruitment this year and our trends and analysis around recruitment, all the way through to our member engagement. So the number of events, what the recruitment around those events, organizer visits per site. You can see down the bottom, we have a heck of a lot of data that's all being pulled from Dynamics into Power BI, where we can start doing a bit more analysis and get those insights that we need at a glance. Ultimately, though, the members would come in the form of individuals. We have the full branch and region structure all set up. If I go over to our individuals, we can see a list of people who've either had a current membership or maybe it's pending cancel, but either way, these are people that we have engaged with. We can see their membership grade as well. And if I just go in and open, well, before I open a contact, all of these data, you can see at the top, we've applied filters. We can arrange the different columns so we can move those around. We can add in new fields that we want to have visible on that view. And then we can go in and visualize that view into reports. So let's go down to, or into charts, I should say. So from there, we can drill into, let's say, payment pending. And then we just have all of those individuals who are on payment pending. We also have a little bit of AI tools within this view, so we can actually ask in a natural language for information. So find all of my members from this branch as an example, and then it will go out and automatically filter that view and find those individuals for us. So if I go into Adeline's view, so this is now the contact record and post certain piece of information. So one of the really great things about Dynamics is that on the contact record, we have the ability to do different views, or different forms, which will display different information to different people. So an area organizer may need to see less or different information than someone who's coming from head office or from central. So for an area organizer who's going through a recruitment process, first thing we want to be able to see is their place of work. So from there, we can see the employer, the branch that they're associated to, and the region associated to it, and the branch secretary as well. And then we can go through the recruitment information that we're trying to capture. So we have our induction event, the type of rep that we are trying to recruit for. So learning rep, workplace rep, etc. And we can really go through that nurturing process by having tasks and activities that we can see up in the top left, and the full timeline and the history of, and that's again a little bit of an AI tool that summarizes all of the different tasks that we've had. So we don't have to go through and open every single piece of communication to try and understand. We have this summary over here that's going to pull that information together for us. And again, just to touch on it, if I go over to the central admin role, form, you'll see that there's now a lot more information that's available. So we can see the sections and roles that they might, so those sections of interest that they might be associated to. We can see, again, the groups and events that they've attended. But we can also see things like their membership information, whether that payment is pending. It's going back to what Patricia was saying about DAS, you'd be able to get some of that DAS history as well, or that full payment history, and actually process those payments from within CRM through or through integrations with the finance system. So being able to pull all of that information together in a single view, and now we can use that to go through the balloting process. So if we want to set up a ballot, so just for the kind of the next phase of the demo, what we want to do is we want to set up a ballot. So we want to set the start and end date, the goals, and actually manage that ballot process. We want to find the specific members that this needs to go out to. So we need to be very careful about how we build those views. And then we want to do the execution of actually sending out that communication. So down on the left-hand side, we have different areas. So if I go over to ballots, you'll see that it's now changed a little bit down on the left-hand side. We have our union ballots, and we can go in and create a new one. I'm just going to set up a very basic one. So let's just say education pay. So that will be our education pay dispute. and we're going to set that up with our Oxford Academy. You can see us pulling in certain information around that employer. But let's go and save it for a second. Up along the top, we have a business process flow, which is going to manage our users' process for doing this. So as we go through the different stages, different pieces of information will become required. We can do it all at once if we want to, but ultimately we're going to want to run through a process of gathering all the information that we need to do. So we're going to set up our date. So let's say we're going to be notifying employers on the 1st, and just do notify members today. When the start date will be, I'll just pick one, say the 10th of November, and then that's going to run to sorry, I went back a month, my bad. And then we're going to go to the end of November. Ballots is closed, so that's still open at the moment. And then from there, we want to go in and actually build out the audiences of eligible members. It's a very important part for us to be able to identify those members. Now, if we have these set up in the background, so maybe we built those views before, those audiences, we can just select any of those lists before. So if we have, let's say, the Northeast, it has already been built for us. We don't have to go in and recreate them every time. But just to give you a bit of an indication as to what this might look like, if I want to build one, let's say for the Northeast, from there we're going to focus on contact records for this case. Let's just go save that for a moment. And then we actually go in and manage the members of that list, usually using something called an advanced find, which is really, I won't go too into it because it can get quite complex, but it allows us to build out those filters on the fly. So from there, we can look at any of those fields. If you think about all of those fields we had on the contact record, we can select any one of those fields and other fields on other records in order to actually find these individuals. So whether that's by branch or by employer, etc., we can go in and be very, very granular about how we do that. I'm just going to save and close that for a second, and we can go back to our ballot. So we then set this process up. Let's save that. And then the last thing we want to do is, now that we have everyone in our audience, we want to do a bit of communication around that. So for this, we're going to use Customer Insights Journeys, which is the Microsoft's marketing suite or communication suite. And it gives us the ability to do communication over a number of different channels, but very importantly, allows us to automate that process. So I'm going to build what's known as a journey very quickly. And this is going to allow us to select the audience that we want to. Again, we can use natural language, so we can describe what we want. So find the balloting list and send an email, and then wait a week and then send another email if we wanted to. But I'm just going to skip and create from blank. And then let's call that ballot. We're going to match this onto a segment. This is going to be one of our balloting lists. And then we're going to set the date that we want this mail to go off. And then we can go in and actually create that journey. Now, in order to build out this journey, gives us a lot of really powerful tools in terms of automation, which I won't have the time to go through today, unfortunately. But suffice to say that it starts with all of the members of our segment or our marketing list that we built. So that's everyone, let's say, in the Northeast. And from there, we're then going to send out an email to them. And that email will be our union ballot. So this is going to be sort of the call to action to notify our members that there is a ballot coming, and what they will need to do and what the process will be and why we're doing that. This is a fully drag and drop email that we can build, but I've just built a very transactional looking email. And then let's say we want to wait a little while. So we're going to send out that email, and then we are going to wait for, let's say, 1 week, and then we're going to send that again, and we can start to put in other criteria to say, you know what, let's put a trigger to say that if people haven't opened our email, then we're going to send them the follow-up email just as another reminder. So we have a lot of control over the flexibility in ensuring that our members actually receive all of that communication and are actioning that communication. And we can change our subject lines and make it a bit more urgent if it's coming up to vote time and they haven't actually opened any of our emails or clicked on any of the links. Steve, I know I'm running a bit short on time, so I'm going to stop there if you don't mind, and I'm going to hand back over to you. Hope that was useful.
Okay, so thanks, Chris. So very quickly, because we wanted to spend as much time as we could with Patricia, so I think that was very useful. I'll just summarise. So please, take out of this, digital union is what members are expecting now. So please start to embrace that. Use the readiness tools, such as those on the TC Digital site. Work out where you are now, and therefore what priorities you need to address to get to that full end-to-end journey. And if you want some help and advice from us, we'd be delighted to talk to you about that as well. We showed you Dynamics 365. So Helen was asking about whether what we showed you was out of the box. So Dynamics gives you a lot of out-of-the-box features, but crucially, it allows experts like us and experts within trades unions to customize and build your own functionality as well. So it's a living product that you can develop and develop and develop through various phases as well. So, but all still within the control and the it makes it still reliable within the Dynamics suite, because when Microsoft upgrades their product, it takes your customizations forwards with it, so you're always up to date. We haven't really touched a lot on AI today because there was a lot of other stuff to cover, but we are running some webinars previously and in the future next month as well. So I'll show you those right at the end of this. And finally, I think it's key that you pick a supplier that understands your space, but particularly the nuances of your union. And so you need people that have obviously got a lot of experience in this. So that's the summary. If I can, we won't do the poll for right now, but if I can just cover some resources we've got, and you can scan the QR code if that's large enough on your screen, or if not, there's the URL. But we've got a description of our various products and services on the website there. So please go and look at that. And we're constantly adding new resources as well. So please look at that. For AI, we have a whole load of useful downloadable resources there. So they can be use cases, tools that help you sample across your staff where they think AI could help them, and so on. We always say this, but if there's one thing you take away from AI today, it's provide it on an enterprise or a business level to your staff. Don't let them use their own tools, because if they are using, say, the free version of ChatGPT and other tools as well, your information can be at risk, because they will be going outside your organization. If you go for the ChatGPT or Copilot business or enterprise models, then you can basically secure those and the data remains safe and robust and within GDPR. So that's a very important thing. Lead your staff, don't let your staff go underground, because that's when you do start to get the problems that you don't want. And finally, upcoming events, as I say, the next one's 4th of November. That's all around Copilot and various tools around the Microsoft ecosystem. So we'll be doing a lot of focused AI walkthroughs and demonstrations of customer solutions. And then we have another one in December, which is a more general organizational wide AI. And that's the products that we specifically won the Memcom Awards for. So that is it from us today. Thanks for those of you that have stayed slightly above time. Sorry for overrunning, but I hope that was very useful to you all. And if you have any questions, please do contact us and we'd be delighted to talk to you. Thanks for that, and I hope to see you again at the next events. Bye for now.